Hi folks, I've just built up the 4Ground Rorke Hospital yesterday. I thought I'd make a fairly full review about it, so I'm not sure if there is one yet. I have seen this model before. I've seen Ralph Astley's, I don't know if that is the 4Ground Hospital. He might have bought one from maybe Redoubt, because his collection is from Redoubt. But this is, I suppose, 28mm. It's a sort of smaller 28mm. I think Redoubt are a bit larger, but Ralph Astley's collection is awesome. It's definitely inspired me to do my own. I've combed down the teddy bear fur yesterday. The only thing I haven't been able to do is just to get this to fit perfectly up the top, and that's just scratching at my OCD, but it's completely 100% my fault. The kit itself does, if you would spend a little bit more time, you could get everything to fit perfectly. I know that that's the only thing that isn't fitting exactly snug. The only bits that I find were that it wasn't even off, it was just the MDF piece is so large it's going to warp ever so slightly if you really wanted to. I think it's this piece and the far outer wall piece was just like ever so slightly off. What you could have done is weighted those down with some heavy books before starting and they would have been perfectly straight. The actual jigsaw method of the walls, as you can sort of see poking out there behind this black tree figure, and that means that you could actually dry fit this building, and say you're in a pinch you could just dry build it, and it is built so well that you don't need glue, and I was just amazed at that. I've of course run PVA down the lines and used quite a lot just to make it absolutely solid, but there's no rattle in there. This thing is absolutely solid with 3mm MDF. Couldn't be more happy with it. It's just an absolute dream come true of a set, all the nooks and crannies in it. And I think most of you know that I'm really into my Zulu War history, and Ian Knight's Zulu Rising. You know what, I might have a plan, but in my head I believe this is exactly the plan of the hospital. The only thing I need to do is, I think I'd like some mealie bags at these back walls, or actually put doors in, because these were the outside rooms during the attack on Rorke's Drift, and I love that they've done the loopholes and the bullet holes on the etched MDF. You can sort of see that where those Zulus are standing now. There's actually a lot of casualties at Rorke's Drift from fire from the hills. Not from Martini Henrys as is shown in the film. They were antiquated muskets. They hadn't taken Martini Henrys from the dead because the largely married men who were at Rorke's Drift hadn't fought at Isandlwana. They were there at Isandlwana, but they were held in reserve and were peeled off before being engaged. They were quite frustrated that they weren't able to take part in the battle, but they're is it Indwanas? So they were almost like, I suppose the Anglicanized word would be something like chief or something. But the Indwanas of the, I think it's the Imbutho, which are almost like regiments. They were able to keep hold of the married men. These Zulus don't have the gum rings on top of the head, so these are actually, if we're going to be picky, I need to paint up married men, and I'll probably just get another set of Perry for that when I actually do a Rorke's Drift game. I'm sure these will be fine as reinforcements, but if we're going to be just so about it, these aren't the Zulus to use. As I said, I'll definitely use them just because we need to get the numbers on the table. But I'd like a unit of married men painted up for the forefront. The Perry plastics are my favourite, but the walled ones are fine at the end of the day, and I think Ralph Astley's done a lot on this on scale and things, and that's been really interesting. I think I would pick up some black tree ones because they have some good sales, and it's nice just to have a nice variety. I think I'm borderline obsessed with the Zulu War. It's been dormant this year just because I haven't had time to do my reading on it and paint anything more. I did a lot last summer if you followed me then. Or if you're a new subscriber and you want to go back and watch some of the old videos, that's possible too. There's Colour Sergeant Bourne there. Lee, you will be happy to know, Lee, that I have not butchered the other Colour Sergeant Bourne. He's going to be on a diorama piece. I've got him painted. I'm not sure if he's varnished yet. I need to double check that. But he needs to be put on a sort of round, is that 50mm base? One of those quite large MDF bases. He's going to be with the historical character of Chard from Empress Miniatures, and I'm going to try and recreate the Angus MacBride illustration where I think, oh, is it Angus MacBride, or it might be, yeah, I think it is, you know, and I think that's what's inspired Paul Hicks' sculpt is the actual illustration by Angus MacBride. And yeah, so I've got this sculpt, but another one that I have painted up exactly the same, and he will be on a larger diorama piece with Chard. I think he might be cupping a hand over his ear. I'll need to double check that, but I'd like to have that as a diorama piece for the centre of the Rorke's Drift game, and Bromhead will be on a separate basis as well. I've got some of the characters. I've got is it the chaplain, Smith. He's handing out. I've got another one of these as well. I need to do a stock check of my Zulu War collection because it's sort of been put to the back for a little bit. I've got well, I bought 50 Empress miniatures, and here's one of them. And for the most part they were untouched, but some of them actually had conversions, so someone had bought some heads and converted them. So this is a converted hook, I believe, and he's done a very nice job. I think he did do green stuff around the neck areas and stuff, so there's no it's not a bad conversion job at all, and if anything, they've given me some varied poses that would have been a lot of hard work otherwise. I believe this is the historical hook, and I have two of these now. I've got copies because I bought, because I'm so, well, I don't know if it is fair to say obsessive, because some people are obsessive with a capital O, but there were some packs I'd had the odd character with this sort of mix of 50 figures, but then there were some ones missing, so I bought those packs again, and now I've got doubles of some. Like, I'm sure I have, yes, I've got double here. There's the more recent one I painted, and the bloodied hook there. Hook, as I'm sure you've already heard from Ralph, was sort of smeared a bit in the film, but he's an important character in the film, isn't he? Because he's, you know, I wouldn't want to change a thing about Zulu. I was watching it yesterday whilst building this up. But yeah, he was definitely defamed, as I suppose, as a character in the film, sort of portrayed as a drunk. But I've got the historical character there. He was really a brave man, and I think he was, you know, sober. He wasn't at all like he was portrayed. And yeah, I just had some joy in bringing out the old collection of the Zulu War. They haven't seen much light. I think I'm going to bring them all out maybe today, just to take a stock check of what I have so far and what I've got left to paint up. I was really chuffed that Lee sent me some black tree boars, and they're perfect for sort of non-British regulars characters, because you want to represent maybe Corporal Shees, or I think there was a Natal Carboneer there as well, so I'm going to try and fill those gaps, and I would like to represent the British regulars at least on a 1-to-1 scale, and then get a lot of Zulus assembled, especially the married men. And through preparing for this Rorke's Drift game, I will actually collect quite a substantial Zulu force, hopefully. Sorry that this review has turned into more of a ramble. I was trying to make it focus, but I obviously can't do that. yeah, can't recommend it highly enough, guys. The teddy bear fur was straightforward. I just went through with a rough brush, and that's the sort of texture. It's not hardened completely, it's still soft, but I don't think it needs to be rock hard particularly. I'm going to seal the MDF kit this afternoon with a hairspray, because apparently that's a good lacquer, and that'll seal in all the wood before painting it. I would really like to paint this. If anyone has continued watching until now, could you please tell me, especially Ralph, you'll know more than me, some of the bricks are exposed here. I'm going to do a whitewashed wall, unless it wasn't a whitewashed wall, but I'm fairly sure it was. You know, the bricks now, I still haven't decided on a sort of Zululand coloured stone. I'm not convinced that is like a slate grey. Is it not more of a brick red, or maybe like an Iraqi sand colour? If anyone could tell me that, I'd be really happy. I really need to do my research, because I want everything to be just right with this kit. It's not a cheap kit, and I just want to do it justice, basically. So thank you for listening, guys, and so just do a large pan shot. All the correct rooms are there. The ladder goes up to the outside wall, and I suppose later on in the battle, if you're doing a skirmish, you could even put it up to the hospital wall there. And this would be the sides, the interior side of the perimeter. And that's where the wounded would drop down, and once it was set afire, everyone, I think there were a few wounded, but they managed to get out. I'm sure some did die, actually. And I've got the water cart to build up. I've got 2 more wagons. The 2 wagons, rather than have them just on their own as wagons, you know, for Island 1, I think, and things, I'm going to actually build those into a scenic piece with homemade biscuit boxes and bric-a-brac, and make them into these, like, sometimes you see the resin chunky ones. I'm just going to try and copy those and finish a lot of stretches of mealie bags. So yeah, definitely this is going to be the side project when I'm not doing commissions for people. As a review, I know you're not meant to give 10 to sets, but I'd be awfully tempted to give it 9.5 or a 10, just because I couldn't ask more of it. I can reasonably, for the price, I can reasonably ask more from this kit. I think, you know, the